The Bills went to New England in need of a win to keep their division hopes alive, their hopes to win the division alive, though that's still no guarantee despite the win. And it did not look good at the start. They found themselves early in a 21-0 hole, and Patriots fans were already celebrating online. They were like, we're back. Bills, you had your time, but we run this division. And Josh Allen and James Cook and the boys said, not so fast, and they just reel them back in. Pretty quickly they apply the pressure. They keep scoring. The defense steps up in a big way. They only give up 7 second-half points, and they end up winning 35-31. Huge victory. Y'all's thoughts on this game?
Well, you speak to it. I can attest that a lot of Patriots fans were celebrating. I've got two of them in my family. My brother, who's a big one, saying MVP for Drake May, and then my father, who's also a Patriots fan because of my brother, saying beat down with 4 exclamation points. Get Super Bowl tickets now. My brother then responds, all those questions of us being a for real team seem to be being answered right now. It's like Brady is still there.
Crazy.
And then, of course, you have Dave Portnoy's reaction, which was then fact-checked by Twitter.
What did he say?
Shout out Twitter for that. He was saying that the Patriots are back. They own the AFC East, all of that. And then, of course, Buffalo makes their comeback. They score 5 straight touchdowns. That is, I think, when they did that, only like Kansas City in their really shootout era with Mahomes are capable of doing something like that, and is what Buffalo did on Sunday. 5 straight touchdowns is so demoralizing. And on top of that, it's not like it was extreme explosive plays that were having these touchdowns. New England was having the explosive plays. They were having the huge rush and the huge long touchdown plays. Buffalo was just James Cook twice, Josh Allen third down, James Cook twice. Oh, he picked up a first down. James Cook. Oh, Josh Allen makes a key throw. Oh, a huge catch from a Bills receiver, one of their 7 receivers. And it was 5 straight touchdowns. I cannot imagine how that building would have changed vibe-wise. I would maybe attribute it to how it felt in Starkville when the Longhorns made their comeback. Although that was a very similar score in terms of comeback. I think it was a 20-point comeback, if I'm not mistaken, right?
So maybe just 17 points, but it was a 3-possession comeback. It was a 3-possession comeback.
But not as bad. Look, I think my biggest takeaway is that New England, for a quarter and a half, showed that they very easily could just run up and down the field on a team like Buffalo, and that with their home field advantage, they can take advantage of that and slow down a team like Buffalo. But then they got popped in the mouth. They celebrated too early, both their fans and then even on the sideline. Like, you look at the guys on the sideline, it felt like they were celebrating already. This was if the Patriots won this game, they would have been crowned the AFC champs, or the AFC East champs, meaning they would get their hats and their shirts and pop the champagne and everything in the locker room. And you have players already thinking about that as you're up 21-0. And this is, I think it has a great chance to help them in that they now learn that, no, the game ain't over. You got to play all 4 quarters. That's why the football is played in 4 quarters, is for teams to turn it around and make comebacks on you potentially. And so I think it's a huge, huge, huge wake-up opportunity. And honestly, I think it helps them more that they allowed Buffalo to have that comeback, because coming into this game, they had won 10 games in a row. They were 11-2. They're hot as can be. And imagine if they just go out and win that game 28-7 or 35-14. Do they really take anything from it? and then maybe they come into the first round of playoffs and they're not the 1 seed and they get popped by the 7 seed, whoever that ends up being, whether it could be Houston, it could be Justin Herbert and the Chargers.
Yeah.
The season's over at that point. The season is not over now for New England. The 1 seed is over, but winning the AFC East is pretty likely as long as they can win 2 of their next 3 games. So they get the great chance of having a wake-up call, and Mike Vrabel gets the great chance of re-motivating a team at this point in the season. I think I'm pretty sure it's Saban, but Saban talks about a ton in terms of how do you continue to motivate a team that continues to win? And it's one of the hardest things to do as a coach. Well, now that they've got popped and they've had this comeback on them, I think it gives them a great opportunity to turn it around. All of that being said, they got to go do that.
Yeah.
And I think they have to do that and show that this Sunday night against Baltimore.
And I think they will.
I think they will too. I'm going to pick New England probably in that game. I would imagine we're previewing that game as well on Thursday. But if they don't, then I don't care what they do against the Jets and the Dolphins the final 2 weeks. I think they're very well on the board in terms of losing that first-round playoff game and having a one-and-done season. It would be an incredible season for New England in their first year with Mike Vrabel, and they take it. But a team that was, as their fans are saying, are back. It feels like Brady, when Brady was here, we're on top of the AFC East again. For it to disappear just like that, I think it would. I wouldn't want to be in that spot as a fan.
It has to sting for the fans and for the players, and that is why I think they'll bounce back. Plus, it's just Mike Vrabel. I'm sure he'll get them right. And while it stings, I bet they can help lessen the feeling of that sting and find some comfort potentially in some Ann Michael May baked goods that she's been providing with the teams every day. I don't know if you all have seen that. I would love to be a Patriot. Just get some sweet treats every day. Tough loss. Here's your peppermint cookie. Like, thank you, Ann Michael May. Also, my sister's name's Ann Michael, and I've never heard anyone else with that name. And she did an interview where she was like, or he did. He was like, people don't get her name being a double name. They want to call her Ann May, and I was like, huh?
In the South,
I
double
feel
names
that.
are just maybe it's a Southern thing. I don't know.
That's exactly what he said in the interview. It's a Southern thing. So that's like up here, everyone just doesn't understand at all that her name is Ann Michael.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a good point. I know in the moment the loss really hurts, but I think you said good things that like everything is still in front of them. They could still potentially probably win the division. They could still make a playoff run. There were still bright spots from this game. Travion Henderson really continues to come along nicely. He had multiple huge touchdown runs in this game, which is kind of why you brought him in, was for the home run potential, and he flashed that twice in this game. And then for the Bills, obviously, there's a lot of positives because you win this game, you fight out of the hole. You just kind of show that with Josh Allen and James Cook and that offense, even if the defense doesn't have their best day, you're going to go into any game with a chance.
Yeah.
Any game with a chance.
And it goes back to what JP said about, taking advantage of a loss. And I compared it to something I know. In 2018, Mississippi State women's basketball was undefeated in the regular season. We go into the SEC championship SEC tournament. We lose the championship to South Carolina. And I think that, the coach and all the fans kind of looked at it as almost a blessing because it kind of took a weight off of our backs. I mean, we had an undefeated season at that time. So it's almost like losing a 4.0. Early in your college career as opposed to late.
Sure.
So that it doesn't loom over you, in your final semesters. And maybe the Patriots can kind of take that approach of, all right, like, we still have a lot to fight, a lot to fight for, as opposed to feeling like everything is just kind of given to you. It's like, oh, the AFC East is ours, the 1 seed is ours. Like, I think that this team might, benefit from feeling like they have a lot to fight for and a lot to kind of rally together and go get that. And I think Vrabel can use that as opposed to feeling like they can just sit on their butts and let everything fall into their laps, because that's just kind of how they feel like that's what they're going to get. Do you want to talk about the Bills at all? They won the game.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, JP.
I'll start. I didn't think even when they went down 21-0 that they were out of it, and that's very easy to say in hindsight, but I believe it because what did I say was a huge key for Buffalo coming into this game was turnovers. They
Yep.
hadn't turned the ball over yet. They don't turn it over the entire day. And so when you don't turn it over and you don't waste a possession, you're allowed to and you're able to make this kind of comeback and have this kind of comeback on the road. So I think a credit and a testament to them that in a tough environment, they didn't. My biggest one is it is it is so impressive. I think is the word I'm looking for. I there's a better word for it, a more impressive word than impressive, but it was impressive how
It was impressively impressive.
disciplined how disciplined they were in terms of the run game, how they did not go away from it. They were down 21-0, and Josh Allen only threw the ball 28 times in this game. He has thrown the ball more than 28 times, 5 times this season. So they've been in a ton of shootouts this season. To throw it 28 times in a shootout, to throw it less times than the amount of points you score I think is always impressive. And to do that when being down 21-0 and not abandoning what is their best weapon, which is James Cook in that run game, it is so impressively impressive, like Jack was saying. I think that it's going to be a huge, if they are able to do that and stay disciplined in that and not turn the ball over because they limit the amount of times Josh puts the ball in harm's way, they can get punched in the mouth early, and they are able to make these kinds of comebacks, and they become the inevitable one, like Kansas City has been for numerous years, where even when, I was a Deshaun Watson fan because he went to Clemson, and so when the Texans are up 24-0 against the Chiefs in Arrowhead in the divisional round, I even knew then it wasn't over. And the Chiefs end up turning around, and all of a sudden they're up 42-31. Buffalo can do that
Yeah.
as long as they're able to stay consistent with the ground game, and Josh doesn't turn the ball over. So I think it was another performance for them. Now 3 wins in a row against 3 teams that are eyeing for playoff spots. I think it's building on these performances. And as long as they're in the dance and they've shown as a team that they can do these kinds of things, it's a huge psychological edge, because they're going to
Yeah.
be playing against teams, quarterbacks, coaches without a ton of playoff experience, and that will weigh on the opposing team if they know that Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills are on that side. Even though we're up 21-0 at home, it doesn't matter. It's not over. That's going to force you to make questionable decisions. That's going to make you press. What did teams do a ton through the Kansas City era was go for it when they didn't need to. In that Texans game I mentioned, the 24-0 comeback, the Texans went for a stupid fake punt and handed Kansas City a free touchdown in that game. That is something that can happen when you
Yeah.
have the psychological edge, and I think they're going to have that in the postseason, especially when they have performances like they did Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to roll at this point into any playoff game with the quarterback advantage, or at least feeling like you have the quarterback advantage. I think Josh Allen's playing the best out of any quarterback in the league right now, just factoring especially what he does on the ground game, too, and what can do in the ground game, because obviously Matthew Stafford's having a fantastic year slinging the rock. But just in terms of the burden he shoulders and how much he can deliver, like, you just have to feel great about that anytime. And then especially thinking of, like you said, some of the other teams that are going to be in the playoffs that are good teams, but they're just really untested. You just have to feel fantastic about having Josh Allen to handle that. I think that's a fantastic point.